This is a JTP Audio podcast.
Welcome back to Flight and Pint, now episode 3. My name is Jason Portizo.
I'm Nathan Dickinson.
I'm Walter Wilson, and today we are at Broken Goblet in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. Is that correct?
Bensalem.
Yeah, depending on how far in Google you look, it tells us a different town.
Andalusia.
Andalusia.
Yep.
Yeah, we've heard it too. It's Bensalem, but at this, we're the only brewery in the entire Bensalem proper. So if you look in Bensalem or Andalusia, it's still we're gonna be the only brewery that pops up. So
Do you think you're the best brewery in Andalusia and Bensalem?
we are by far and away, and I don't like to brag, we're the best fucking brewery in Bensalem.
Top 3 towns that you're in right now. Go.
Bensalem,
Nice.
Bensalem,
Right.
and Andalusia.
Oh, nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
All right, so we're talking with Mike Locke. That's correct?
Yeah, that's
All right.
fine. Yeah,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
And thank you for having us out here today. We came here once about a couple of weeks ago, and we absolutely loved it. So having an opportunity to come back, it's very exciting.
We love having podcasts here. We love having podcasts that care about the equipment and making it look pro, and you guys have got that in spades. So,
thank you.
yeah,
Take a lot of pride in my my audio stuff, man.
I can tell. I can tell.
We like being the podcast that gets to drink your beer.
Well, you don't have an awful job. I mean, this is as it goes. A little bit of setup, and then you get to drink some beers.
I got to play with microphones and drink beers on a 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
There you
Done.
go. Day drinking.
Oh, we were drinking at 10 a.m. yesterday for episode 2.
That's early. But then again, it's the weekend.
Right.
Eagles are on this week. It's a big weekend in the area. The temperature shifted a little bit. A little bit cooler. I think drinking at 10 is perfectly appropriate.
It is super nice out. We got this overcast, and it's just this is gorgeous out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Contrary to popular belief, there's nothing wrong with day drinking.
No. Or night drinking. Or just drinking, in general.
And I'm sorry, I forgot my Pennsylvania etiquette. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Go Birds.
All right, so Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you got your start in brewing?
Well, so just full disclosure up front, I am not the brewer here. I am the kind of the mouthpiece, and then I guess I would be considered the sales and marketing person. So I homebrewed, I dabbled, but there's 2 other owners in the business. There were 3 other owners. One of them left under awesome terms, but just because his day job was crazy, and we all have day jobs still, but his day job got so crazy he just couldn't do both. So we got started like I think pretty much everybody else, which is home brewing. But the brewery's inception was in a music studio. So Jay Gross, one of the other owners, is a producer and ran a studio in PA, and I was in a metal band, and I had recorded with him years and years ago for some stuff, and then I got out of the original music scene because I'm in my mid-40s now, but I got out of the original music scene probably around 30, and I just started playing in cover bands because we were, you play hair metal music for 3 hours at some place in Jersey, and we get paid like $1,000, like $1,500. I mean, it was awesome, So as much as that felt dirty, I'm like, you know what? I played the local scene, I played metal, and now I'm ready to just make some money and kind of grow a little bit. So a band, I'll keep this quick, but a band was looking to kind of grow and needed somebody to be kind of a leader of it, and Jay knew them, and Jay said they were looking for a drummer, and Jay said, I know this guy, but he's out. And they were like, well, can you get him back in? So Jay, long story short, Jay brought me back in. So then that band went back to Jay to record an album. And after the album and during the album, we would drink a lot of craft beer. And at night, I'm a super perfectionist kind of OCD drummer. Jay is a drummer by trade and also super perfectionist. Jason, you and Jay would get along well, and equipment wise. And so he
Don't tell him how wrong that is.
no, we would just sit there and mix and drink and just talking like we became really, really close. And one night we were sitting there and we were saying, my day job sucked. The metal, he was recording mostly metal bands. And I mean, not to pigeonhole metal bands, but a lot of them suck to record because there's so much that goes into it. A lot of times they don't come prepared, at least in his experience. You have the drummer that doesn't know the parts, or you've got I'll just play it and you can quantize it later stuff. So we were saying, like, what would you do if you could do something else? And we both simultaneously almost said, I don't know, I think I'd be good at a bar, like running a bar or maybe a brewery. And he was, just kind of said it at the same time. And as we normally did when we had ideas for stuff, whether it was album art or anything, we stopped what we're doing, save the file, and then we got out whiteboards and we just started brainstorming on a whiteboard. Like, okay, so if we were going to open a bar or brewery, like, what would we call it? And we, within an hour, maybe an hour and a half, we had a name, a logo, like a, sort of foundational message. Like, what are we about? What is it? What is it about? What would drive people there? What will we be good at? What do we need to get better at? So we had this whiteboard, which we still have. And we got to the end of it and we're like, all right, this is actually kind of viable, but we don't know what the fuck we're doing when it comes to beer. We just know how to drink it. So we said, well, we've got this studio. Why don't we form a club? We'll start a beer club. And we'll invite people from bands and from, that we know that like beer, families and wives and girlfriends and parents and anybody. Come into these parties once a month and we'll just sort of see how it goes. Are we good at running a bar, but it's not a bar? And it was just a glorified bottle share, but we did some kind of interesting things during it. We always had some sort of entertainment. We'd have like some food catered, and we basically treated it very much like a band trying to sell itself. So I'd get up and do a fucking PowerPoint presentation and get do focus groups with these people. What do you think of this color? What do you think? So that really is the club grew and grew and grew and grew, and we all of a sudden were doing like 100-person events with live music. And at the time we've got home brewers that are brewing beer, and we're doing blind tests with different beers to see if people could tell the difference. And it was funny, and what it did is it taught us what are sort of the tenets that a bar that also as a brewery needs to focus on, but also it built us this super strong core of people so that when we did eventually say, hey, we're opening, we weren't like, okay, here, at the time, we're talking 6 years, 7 years ago, 8 years when we announced it. It wasn't like it is today where every other day there's like, we're opening a brewery, we're opening a brewery. It was like, then it was like, oh, okay. But whereas most of the people were like, well, what do you know about it? There was 100 people and all their friends who were like, yo, these guys, they're on this. I think they know what they're doing. Da, da, da. So that's really the impetus. It grew from mixing metal music and it turned into what this is, which is sort of 2.0 of Broken Goblet in the new facility with the stage and all that stuff.
Do you still throw any of these big parties? I mean, now, with COVID, it's kind of hard.
I almost was like, yeah, no, we don't, we haven't lost sight of them. And those original members are kind of grandfathered into our regulars club, which is our bottle club. But we haven't had at the time that the brewery was going to be called Brutal, BREWTAL.
Nice.
We haven't had a Brutal meeting or anything like that in a while. We've talked about it, but it's just been a matter of, you have these great ideas, and we find this in many breweries. They have a great idea. They don't think it through, and we didn't too in the beginning. You don't think it through. You just throw this idea out, and then all of a sudden, like, you're running a business now, but you just filled your tap room with people that, are drinking for free and didn't pay. And then somebody comes, and I'm being so flippant about it. But once you start taking into account the fact that you have to run a business, it starts to change how you approach these things. And as much as you want to have these parties and, just be like, friends come, you have to also be, pay your staff, pay your bills, keep the lights on, continuously now differentiate in an industry that is so oversaturated. It's almost impossible to separate from the crowd. So long-winded answer to no, but we should have already. And I would like to think we would. We were only open here like 7 months before this whole thing happened, but we've got the space to do, our idea is we were going to do Brutal Tuesdays up on our mezzanine and do it then. But that just, we were thinking, the summer, because then people that come, they can go outside so we don't run out of seats. COVID.
Yeah, things got a little funny on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned when you were doing that meeting of the minds, then you came up with what you're about.
Yeah.
What are you about?
We've always been based on 4 kind of tenets, which one is be customer focused and forward facing as managers. So if you follow us on Facebook or kind of see us post things, we're very honest and transparent about stuff. If we fuck something up, we own it. If something's going on, we talk about it. I'll get on video and reveal a lot of information that I think other breweries might be a little bit more hold closer to the vest because they think that maybe the people don't need to know that. I've always sort of, from the band and then through the brewery, always been about, I feel like if somebody feels like they're a part of something and they're more included in the information that is being shared, they're more invested in the success of that business. A band that's aloof, but you like their music, is just that. It's an aloof band. You never get to meet them. But the band that hangs out outside, that you go outside with and you talk about, even if their music isn't the best in the world, you're going to remember them. They're going to remember their names, and you're going to feel like you're a part of something. So the first thing was really, and it's kind of our biggest driving force, is I want people to have a great experience here. I don't want them to leave mad. And I'm going to be honest about stuff. If stuff's happening, I'm not going to hide behind some sort of wall of nebulous statements. We're going to own it. If a beer gets fucked up like it did several years ago, we're going to go right out. We're going to own it. We're going to recall the beer. We're going to take the hit. We're not going to just act like, oh, that was an accident. So that's a big one. Community focus. So charity is a big deal for us. I think there's many breweries that kind of live in that moment. So that's number 2. Number 3 would be, we are an inclusive place and we are not pretentious. We're humble. We don't brag. If you like Miller High Life, like I like Miller High Life, if you come in here and say, do you have Miller High Life? We're going to say no, but we're not going to make you feel like an asshole because you asked that question. If you want to put in a lemon in your Hefeweizen, we're not going to judge you about it. We're not going to tell you why you're an idiot. We're not going to make you feel bad about how you like to experience this. We just want you to be happy with what you got here. And if you leave here and enjoyed one drink that you had, then we're happy. We succeeded. 25 beers or what on tap. If you can find one that you walk away from and say, like, I like that, then we succeeded in our mission. Because we know you're getting good customer service. You got a nice experience. You got to look at some stuff. And then finally, have fun, be fun is the other thing. We do a lot of like tongue-in-cheek stuff humor-wise. It's all for us for the most part. We name beers not because we think they're going to sell. We reference culture not because we think it's going to be hype. We get blamed a lot for being this brewery that people will say makes average beer but is successful because of their branding and their hype. And my response has been and always will be, and I hope that anybody listens to this hears this for the 100th time from me, we're not naming beers and doing label art for you. We're doing it for us. If I wanted to be hype, I wouldn't reference a 1980s skateboard movie that 1,000 people care about. That's not getting hype. But just because we do a beer with Jason Kelsey, all of a sudden we're the hype machine brewery, because they don't pay attention to the nuance behind that. Just because the Flyers give us permission to do the gritty beer, all of a sudden we didn't do the gritty beer because we thought it was going to sell. We did the gritty beer because it was a horrifying visage that we saw when he popped up and he had the eyes googling. We were like, what the fuck is that thing? So we made a can art and we literally hot glue gun googly eyes on the cans. Yeah, it got press. It was in Russia. It went everywhere. But so getting back to the point, we do things to have fun here. It's not about us. It's not about you. It's just come and just drop your hype and your nerdism at the door and just come enjoy shit. Like if you like the beer, you like the beer. Who cares what it's named? It could be Broken Goblet Porter, Broken Goblet Wheat. We could do that, or we could name it after stuff that makes us laugh and we enjoy doing the artwork for. So those are the 4 pillars of the brewery.
Speaking of which, one of the beers that you put out recently was the main reason I came here, and it was mostly because of the art and the name. It was Send Me an Angel. I'm a big fan of the movie Rad.
Yeah, you can tell we are too.
Yeah, and I loved it, and I was so happy to come here and get it, and I have the empty can at home still because it's great art too.
Yeah, we are BMX kids growing up. All 3 of us, the owners. We've been making that beer for about 4 years, but this is the first year that we actually put art to it because we were just, this year was the re-release, or maybe not even the re-release. This was the year that Rad, the movie, got put on DVD. It was always VHS and bootleg for like 20 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was the year they announced way early in the year this company called Vinegar Syndrome, I think, was transferring it to 4K and putting it out. And all of a sudden, BMX started to get this float up. And Bill Allen, who was Crew Jones, all of a sudden got really popular. Shows up on Cameo and wrote a book, and we were like, dude, we got to do art. We are the only brewery in the country that's making now. Of course, we're not, but we're the only brewery in the country that was making this beer called Send Me an Angel that had this rad theme. Now there's another brewery, ironically in Florida, called Broken Strings that is making a Send Me an Angel beer rad themed. But they seem like nice folks. But yeah, so we love 80s BMX.
Yeah, the question that I had is there actually stock in 1980s mag wheels, or are you guys in the hole? Are you guys in trouble money-wise? Because there's a lot of mag wheels on this
I know.
wall.
The money is ridiculous, dude. If you follow it on online, like these, the bike, like this to your left, that orange Pro Performer, like that's like a $3,500 bike to buy.
Wow.
I mean now, and there was a bike up behind me. It's not there anymore, but we had a Trickstar, Chrome Trickstar.
Nice.
That ended up getting sold, but that was like a $5,000 bike, and it didn't even have brakes. Like stuff is ridiculous.
But I mean, you have to put in perspective, like how much they actually, even in the late 2000s, how much they cost to build still.
Yeah.
So even the parts were ridiculous back then.
Yeah, and I mean, I was a kid growing up. I could never afford a nice BMX. So that gray Diamondback that's up there, that was like $300 in the middle, was my childhood bike. Actually, not the childhood bike because that bike got stolen, but somebody found me the exact bike, same year, everything,
cool.
and just fitted it out. But, like I couldn't afford these bikes. So I would read BMX Action and Freestyling magazine while I was on my shitty, little Diamondback, and I had other friends that had other cool bikes. But it was okay. Like they let you ride it, and it just makes me feel sad, and it makes us happy to look at it, to remember a time when we could go out. And that's what I had on the rad can. Bring it back to the beer was, you go like, Mom, Dad, I'll see you, and this is like 10 a.m. and you didn't see him until dinner.
Yeah, you'd be gone.
You've gone all day. You maybe came back at lunch or went to somebody's house to get some high C or Kool-Aid or something, and maybe some potato chips. And you're all out. You're exploring your entire world, finding shit to jump, getting hurt.
Yeah.
And we would joke the only time you get home early is when you really fucked something up on your body, and you're like, I've got to go home.
I try to tell my kids all the time, like, don't be afraid to get hurt, because you're gonna get hurt.
I said the same thing to my girls. I have 2 girls, and I'm like, just a knee scraped is not a big deal. It's just not.
Speaking of things that are rad, that pink scooter on the wall is sick, dude.
Yeah. Zoot Scoots. That is I also mine that got stolen, and then somebody sourced me one. So those are not my original, but I had a Diamondback, and my grandmom, shortly before she passed away, bought me a pink Zoot Scoot.
That's awesome.
Which were just ridiculous, but yeah.
Do you have more bikes elsewhere,
Yes.
or is everything in the museum?
There's some
here?
that we just haven't hung because we've been like, we got to get a scissor lift from next door and borrow it, and we just haven't had time to come and put it up.
Hey, real quick, all the bikes we're talking about and all the decorations in the place, we're going to put pictures up on the Instagram. You can follow us at Flight in a Pint, and we'll get some pictures up so you can see what we're talking about.
Cool.
All right, so why don't you tell us what's in this pint glass?
Yes,
Sure.
beer.
Yeah. So we, you asked for like what was a flagship, and we have a couple that are on, but the beer that I chose is called the Fall of Risengard, which is a punny take on a Lord of the Rings.
I was going to ask. There's a lot of Tolkien references in your menu.
Yeah. So we enjoy the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, and when we made this beer, as many times are, at the beginning when you first start, you're just sort of taking stabs at stuff, and we had decided very early on we were opening 5 miles or less from the Chamonix Creek Brewing Company, which still is, but at the time was a powerhouse in the area and made, top to bottom phenomenal beers, and I believe still does.
Oh yeah.
But they made German lagers, pilsners, IPAs, Hefeweizens. They were really a traditional, and I think to a certain extent still are, a very traditional brewery. They weren't throwing weird shit in their beer all the time, or, very, very rarely. So we were very close with them, and they were very helpful with us opening. So we made a decision as an ownership group, let's kind of go the different direction because we're so close, and at the time we're the only 2 breweries around in this area. Let's give people a reason to go to Chamonix Creek and then come over to Broken Goblet or vice versa. So we purposefully worked beers in that were weird, and we were more of the Dogfish Head to their, Trogs or Victory. Again, we love them, and so nothing disparaging about them. But we just went different. So one of the first beers we brewed was we wanted to do a rye ale, and we were like, that's just so plain, like just a rye ale. So what can we do to spice it up? So Joe, who was one of the owners, who's since not part of the group anymore, said, let's like darken it up. Let's make it black. Let's make it a black rye. So he added some deep bitter black malts to it. It brings up the roastiness a little bit to it. It looks like it's going to drink like a kind of a medium-bodied porter or even a stout, but it doesn't at all once you taste it. It's very deceptive, and you get the rye kick, a little bit of peppery finish. You still get the malt, and then you get that kind of roasty, almost toffee flavor in there from the debittered black, and obviously it looks cool. So, black rye, we were like, I don't know, at the time we were on a super Tolkien kick, and I was just thinking of Isengard and the White Tower, and I'm like, why don't we call it the Fall of Isengard? And then our artist came up with a super simple logo of, Treebeard throwing basically a hop boulder at the tower, kind of bas relief, like, silhouetted. Awesome. And colors are cool, and we've been making it ever since. I wish I had the barrel aged version to give you guys, but that sold out. So that's the one I went with. I thought it'd be a different, you're not going to get a black rye as a flagship very much, but it's one of our first beers we ever brewed.
This is first of all, it's excellent, but literally, like, as you were describing each flavor is exactly when that flavor came in.
Yeah,
like you almost got them in order.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm talking about it enough,
Yeah.
The toastiness of the malt is exceptional. I really
thanks.
like it.
Thanks. We're happy about it because it scares people away a little bit, and we always say, you just got to try it. But it's one of our most popular beers because of how it presents, and then also how it tastes. I mean, I like rye beers, but I don't want the rye to be overpowering to me. So with adding that little bit of roastedness to it, I think cuts the peppery rye kind of bite. But it's all still there in layers, and I dig it a lot.
It is. It's very delicious, and I too like rye beers, but sometimes it gets a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. This works perfectly with all the other flavors.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Now, speaking of beers, what would you say is your favorite style of beer?
Me personally is stouts. Stouts or porters. I'm a dark beer guy.
My man.
A dark beer guy. Yeah. I don't care how hot it is. I don't care what time of year it is.
I'm the exact same way.
Give me the darks. Yeah.
Another one of your Tolkien references with one of the beers I had here last time was the Biffer.
Yeah.
And
we were sold out of that. Bummer. As I said, it's one of my favorite. That might be my most favorite beer we've ever brewed.
I haven't stopped talking about it.
Yeah.
That thing was amazing.
Yeah, that was really good. That was a kind of a base pastry stout, so a little bit sweeter, a little bit fluffier mouthfeel, if you want to take that term and not throw up in your own mouth when you say it. And then we added vanilla. So there was already vanilla in it, but then we added chocolate, strawberry, and graham cracker to it. And we call it a second breakfast stout, which is sort of a, tongue reference to the whole, what the hobbits would say for second breakfast and 11sies and all that stuff.
Just start stacking Tolkien references.
Not just hobbits. I mean, second breakfast is good for everybody.
Yeah, we had fun with it, and that's part of a series we do every year. We do a dwarf beer. So in the Hobbit series, the kind of the company of dwarves that were going with Thorin leading them to try to go back to reclaim his homeland. We decided in the very beginning, 2014, we should do this one dwarf a year. And then we'll also add in, the Hobbit, and we'll add in Gandalf. And if we can make it 15 years, so we see the series through, we will be, we will have succeeded in something. So we're on 6, I guess, now.
Nerd check. Can you name all the dwarves?
Probably. I probably could. Do you want me to do that now, or it may take too long, but I definitely think I can. Only because I used to watch the Rankin Bass Hobbit cartoon that was back in the 80s.
I love that so much.
And he did this sing song when he was introducing them. So I'm pretty positive that I would do it in the same cadence. And he was Owens and Glowins. Like he did this whole cadence, and he was like, and I'm Bomber at the very end, and then the song Far Over Misty, that whole song that came. People are right now being like, turn this shit off. This guy's singing Hobbit songs. Like, yeah, but I'm
thinking more. They're going to be like, and subscribe. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, we love Lord of the Rings. I love that world.
If you got to it, would you do? I think it's Philly and Gilly, right?
Keeley.
Yeah. And would you do them as a set of beers?
Nope, we did Keeley already. Keeley was a black IPA. We tried to match the. Believe it or not, we I don't know if we talked about this. We may have not, but I talked to somebody else about how all of our stuff is very layered, and it came from the band, like names, imagery, lyrics, and now beer names and logos. Everything is very layered. So with these, we tried to make a beer that somehow matches either the visage or the backstory or something about those particular characters. So with Keeley, for instance, he got shot by the Black Arrow, so we decided to do a black IPA. Bomber, we did a barley wine because Bomber was big, and he kind of, so we've tried to Thorin, we did an oak-aged beer, an oak-aged triple IPA, I think. So every one we've tried to do something different. Now, Biffer was a weird one but Biffer loved to eat, and so we were like, what are the best ways to portray this particular character? And he had like an arrow shard in his, or like a sword axe. He has like an axe shard that was buried in his head as part of his lore. And there were only certain things he would talk about or could speak or, verbally. And one of them was breakfast. So we were just like, let's do this, and that is sort of how we conceptualize how we're going to do these. And that's one, I guess, go back to what I said before. We don't do this for other people. Like, it's for us. Nobody would know that unless they're hearing me say this right now.
That's great, because there's a lot of like empty nerd references where people try to pick up on the geek chic. People try to just get the nerd crowd in and buy some beers. But you guys are like putting thought into it.
We really do, and not to be a brag.
As a lifelong nerd, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like things that are themed when it comes to breweries. And we got the BMX wall. We've got the J.R.R. Tolkien in the naming of and the styles of beers. I'm wondering, you have 4 different distinct bathrooms. How did that come about?
Yeah, so that's funny. Good question. I always had this idea. Jay and I always had this idea that we wanted to do bathrooms that were connected. And when I say connected, I mean like technologically connected. So we had this idea that if you did something in one bathroom, I know this sounds crazy to people listening about a bathroom, but if you did one thing in one bathroom, would it change something in another bathroom? We always thought like it's funny to go places, and the one place you don't ever think about, you give no thought to, is your bathroom. But if you think about this, like I'm asking you guys, you think of a time in the last 20 years you've gone someplace, and I'll use maybe Gray Lodge in Philadelphia if you've ever been there before. The Gray Lodge is a bar in Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia. It's like Port Rich, whatever. It's out right outside of Philadelphia, but awesome dude that runs it. And in his bathroom, he had this kind of work in progress tiling, and he would make little sayings out of the tile and put characters. You always remembered the bathroom in the Gray Lodge because of this. Not that we ripped that, but it's like the one place in a facility you don't think about is the bathroom. So we're like, well, we're going to change that. So when we knew what we had bathrooms wise, we said, let's connect them. I'm like, but how do you connect bathrooms? And so I said, well, I was just trying to run in, like we had 4. So I'm like, what are things that come in 4s? What could we run with? The Father, the Son, like, no, we're not going there. Oh, we could do this, and no, we're not going to go there. And I was like, what about like the good, the bad, the ugly? And then Jay was like, and what the fuck are we going to call the last one? And I was like, what the fuck? So good, bad, ugly was established, and then we're like, well, how do we theme them? So the good bathroom has all the good reviews that we pulled over a period of like 6 or 9 months on Yelp and Facebook and everywhere. The bad has the bad, which is awful. Then the what the fuck is the ugly is a throwback to our original facility where we had our faces in our bathrooms that were staring at you like these giant heads, and it would freak people out, but they would take pictures of in the bathroom and tag us. So that bathroom is just full of just leering faces while you're trying to go to the bathroom. And then the what the fuck was just, 5 years, 6 years of drinking, you just collect funny pictures. So we just sort of did a film roll that captured lots of behind the scenes people and just stupid stuff. I mean, that bathroom, but the what the fuck is not complete yet. There's something that's supposed to happen in there that's just not done yet. And then all 4 bathrooms will be connected technologically. That's all I can say.
All right.
I don't want to give it away because it'll be funny when it happens. People will be like, why is the siren going off while I'm going to the bathroom?
Yeah, it's going to be hilarious when you burst into that bathroom while Walter's taking a poo later.
Yeah.
I've only been to 2 of them so far, so I still need to go to the good and the ugly.
Okay, yeah. Well, so you went to the bad first, got it out of the way. Yeah.
No, actually, I went to the what the fuck. I mean,
okay.
You always got to go what the fuck first.
That seems like such the obvious call.
Yeah. So that's the bathroom story.
Let's take a look at this flight here.
Yeah, let's get into this flight.
So the number 1 slot. What do we have here?
Animal Chin, I believe.
Yep.
Animal Chin, double IPA.
I gave you such a varied thing. I don't want to tell you what order to go in. I mean,
I go numerically.
I would just go numerically. I mean, it's maybe not the best because there's a sour mix there. So Animal Chin's a double IPA. We just released it. It's got lactose in it, which is so it's a New England style or Northeast style. We didn't overdo it on the lactose, which we don't like to do. I think it came out great. People seem to think it came out great. I'm not a huge fan of this style of beer, but it hit all the notes. It's not bitter, but it's an IPA. Go figure. It's sweet. It's got a power packed fruit in your face that comes from the hops chosen and the yeast. And it's kind of a beer that you can play with in terms of flavors. So you can substitute a hop out. You can add, like we have a strawberry cream version that's coming out this week, and then we have a version that we put a herbal tea in that's coming out, which is awesome. Which I'll get to in a minute because I picked another beer for you guys in that regard.
Awesome.
So yeah, it is the quintessential. You have to have this beer on your menu.
I love Northeast IPAs, and I like that term better than New England because I think a lot of people outside of New England are doing them just as good or even better.
For sure.
And the subtle use of lactose is always way better than a beer that is killed with lactose.
Yeah.
It can ruin the flavor of a Northeast, especially a double, a banger like that. You want to taste those hops.
Yep, and it's about 8.7%. So I mean, it's a strong beer, but it is.
I up until very recently, I was just not a fan of IPAs, and I think that's because the trend of it was just to just kill you with the hops, make it as bitter and almost unpalatable as possible, in my opinion. But I've been more and more seeing things that are more concentrating on like making it juicy, making it fruity, and this is like I said, this is not a very bitter palate.
No.
But that juice is coming through a lot.
I mean, the just for the name, Animal Chin is referencing an old Bones Brigade video called "The Search for Animal Chin," and we have been working on this recipe for a long time. We are very slow to pull things out, so the joke was kind of like, and again, it comes from flippant sayings that happen in real time. But Bubba had said, we're making another hazy. It's going to be a double, and it's going to have lactose in it. And I'm like, is this the one? Is this going to be the one we're happy? He's like, I think the search is over. So I hear that, and I'm like, he's like, what are we going to call it? I'm like, give me a little bit. So as soon as I hear the search, my brain immediately goes back to the 80s with Tony Hawk and Steve Caballero, Roddy Mullen, and Search for Animal Chin. So it's kind of been, so we called it Animal Chin. And, some people get the reference and some people don't, but we don't. It doesn't matter.
Well, I get the reference now that you explained it.
Yeah, which is exactly, which we go into Facebook groups and we get accused of being like hype machines because I named a beer Animal Chin. I have to explain it to the public to understand what it is,
you're going on the hype of a movie no one knows.
Like, how can you? I picked the fucking most obscure things to reference to people. Like, dude, these guys, everything is just really Rad the movie. Like is that a hype movie? I mean, are you kidding me?
For me, it is. But
yeah,
I don't know
for a
about
very small part of the population.
Yeah, for people that are like in their 40s or almost in their 40s, and we're in that culture. Like, I was one of those guys who would wait for his buddy to get that Thrasher video or that skate compilation video and go over and watch it 40 or 50 times.
Yeah, right till the tape got worn. We were the same way. So but I hear the search and I immediately go to Animal Chin. So
it's a good name.
Yeah.
What's number 2 on the list here?
I don't have it in front of me. I think it's Fool's Gold.
It is Bubba's Teabag.
Oh, Bubba's Teabag. Okay, so here's the story on this. So, and I'll keep it quick because I don't want to bore you. But we started brewing beer with tea very early, fruited tea, and it came out of a conversation that our brewer owner Bubba had with his wife. But we started to brew beer with tea that nobody else was doing, and this is the only thing I've ever bragged about in 6 years. Tea beers have sucked unilaterally, like across the board, no matter what. People try to put Earl Grey tea in a beer or some sort of black tea, and it just becomes this astringent mess. We started brewing beer with fruited tea, and in a very specific way in which he brewed it, which is one of our trade secrets, but the way he does it's very different. So we made this beer called Bubba's Teabag, and it was one of our most popular. Sorry about that. It flies. As soon as you have the doors open constantly, it's like, oh, can we come in and live
This is
here?
going to be a recurring theme on this show because there was a fly yesterday at Icarus that was pissing me off a whole bunch.
It's on your head right now. So
I can stay there.
But anyway, so we brewed these beers with tea. So anyway, Bubba's Teabag is very popular. So this beer that you're drinking right now is Bubba's Teabag with a tea called Rote Grütze, which is a German fruit tea. It's kind of berry forward. So we teed the beer and then we soured it and put it in a wine barrel. I believe it was a Cabernet wine barrel, or it might have been a Cabernet and a Shiraz, and then we blended them. This is a 7-month barrel-aged sour ale with fruit tea that you're drinking. The reason why I brought it up is because that same tea is what's going into the Animal Chin beer that's going to come out. Well, it already went in, but it's going to come out. But in this beer, you're going to get it's all over the place. You get the oak, you get a little wine, you get the sour, although it's mellowed a bit, You get this sort of herbal earthiness that's coming from hibiscus. And then you get the berry, kind of the fruit flavor that sits underneath. But I still think it maintains, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, it's still a beer. It doesn't taste like a fruit juice that got soured. It still has that
definitely
base, kind of weedy, sort of bready feel to it.
Yeah, and that's great when you get a sour that's not... I personally, I don't like sours that are overpowerful and like make you pucker in the mouth. I like something that's just a little bit more understated. And I love the right amount of hibiscus in my beer. I think it's a great flavor.
Yeah, but you can kill it.
The correct color to the beer. And by not overpowering, like you said, the base of the beer gives you, once again, like you said, that breadiness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's different. I mean, we have a couple sours. We have a kettle sour that we did, but I thought it'd be a cool... I mean, nobody's doing beer with... Well, I shouldn't say that. Now I'm starting to see tea crop up.
Right.
But it's cropping up for breweries that are legitimately hype. So it's like now all of a sudden tea beers are like, oh, these are so awesome. I wish people did more of these. And we're like, yo, we've been here for 6 years. We've been doing this.
Am I a joke to you?
Yeah. Do I amuse you? So we've been doing it, but it just comes down to we're not a mainstream brewery. So, but we've been doing these tea beers, and we've done a lot of tea beers, and we still continue to add tea to stuff that you wouldn't expect.
And I appreciate when something has like that kind of that earthy flower flavor to it without the beer being all about the flower.
Yeah, having it be an aspect of the beer.
Yeah, the hibiscus is in it. It's not the whole thing.
Right.
And hibiscus, lavender, all those are like they're almost like volatile to play with.
Oh my God!
You put in like the tiniest amount more than it kind of wants, and now your whole beer is just drinking a flower.
We did a rosemary pale ale that just was not good.
Right.
It's not good because the rosemary killed it, and then the rosemary flavor as it started to mellow, all you got was sort of this, I don't even know how to explain it, like a bad sunflower flavor, I guess, and it just fucked the whole beer up, And
almost like a sunburn plant.
It was weird, yes,
smell.
super weird, like buttery, but not diacetyl butter. It was like it's so hard. So the
flavors get real pushy.
Dill can be the same way.
Yeah, we do another beer called Old Toby, which is another Lord of the Rings reference, but it has basil in it, and we've got that down to a science. So that one comes out good, but then you have these others that are just not. You can fuck them up real quick, but then you got to own it. You got to be like, I'm sorry, this is we'll refund your money or whatever. Be open about it. People don't get mad.
Sure.
Some spices just don't work.
Yeah.
But that basil sounds pretty good.
It is really good. It is really good. It's the weed. It's like the weed of beers before cannabis beers came out.
So tell me real quick about your house cat.
Gilberto. Gilbert was a hoarder's cat. So he was in a hoarder's house and he was really abused. We worked with the rescue who went and got him, obviously. And brewery cats are very common, especially in the Northeast, because probably everywhere. But, the biggest thing you have to fight in a brewery besides flies is rodents.
Sure.
You got bags of grain all over the place. You got grain all over the place. So the brewery cat's job is basically just to scare, the saliva of the cat has a pheromone.
Natural deterrent.
So it actually keeps them away. And so Gilbert has, he was very skittish in the beginning. We've had him for 2 years now. And now he's probably walking behind me, but now he's much more, he knows that nobody's going to, I don't know what they did to him. And I just don't, there's a special place in hell for people who abuse animals. I don't know what they did to him, but he was he definitely had been abused. Now he's cool.
I got to tell you, it makes me like you guys better, even more now that you rescued this cat.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, we're not the only ones. 2SP, they've got one. Philly Brewing has one. I think a lot of breweries have one.
Follow-up question: can I pet him?
If he'll let you, yeah,
If you can get him.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if he was a particularly good mouser, because I know that my cat is just lazy as shit.
He is, and he leaves us presents. But
Awesome.
that's
Nice.
the presents that we, at your house, not so much, but in your brewery, if you see a dead mouse that he left for you, you're like, yes.
Let you know he's doing his job.
Someone's doing some work around
Yeah,
here.
and I mean it's funny because you get worried because we are so heavily audited by Department of Health and
Sure.
and stuff. So that's one of those things where you'd be afraid in the beginning, and they're like, no, it's great. The pest company comes in, they have to put their requisite traps down and everything, especially outside. But The pest company thinks they're fantastic. Department of Health says, they're fantastic. Cats are generally very clean animals. So
Still, it sounds to me like you need to incentivize that employee with some catnip.
Or some beer. I don't know.
he gets enough love from Jay. Jay is his buddy. So Jay and him have a bond.
Nice.
Yeah. He sleeps up in Jay's office and yeah.
What do we have the number 3 slot?
I think that's Fool's Gold.
This is Fool's Gold. Yeah.
So we are.
I forget you don't have a flight card.
That's okay. That's okay. I kind of can tell from the color. Fool's Gold is a Belgian Golden Strong, so it's a pretty traditional style of beer. We really love Belgian beers here. If we could make Belgian beers and lagers all day long, we would. If we thought we could get away with it, we really like Belgians. Fool's Gold was one that we brewed years and years ago for an anniversary party. It's over 9%, as that style should be, but it's everything that I love in a Belgian beer. It's got the flavor of a saison. It's got kind of the crispness of a brut almost. It's effervescent. It looks it looks fantastic. You can see through it. God forbid you see through your beer. Like you can see through it.
I feel attacked.
It lives up to the color of the name, and
this is a gorgeous gold color.
Yeah, it's a really nice beer. We've never distributed it. I know there's a brewery in Pennsylvania that makes a beer called Fool's Gold. I'm aware of that. We've been brewing ours longer, but theirs is a peanut butter porter maybe, or peanut butter Hefeweizen, I think. Ours is a Belgian Golden Strong. Very different beers. We're never going to distribute this, so we feel like it's a. Sorry, get distracted. We feel like it's a very in-house type of beer, but we love Belgians. So I thought I would, showcase that we can do that style pretty well.
Outside of IPAs and stouts, these strong Belgians, the quads, the triples, are my favorite beers because you taste all of the beer.
Yeah, you can't hide anything in there.
Right. And you're also getting the full mouthfeel, and the body of the beer itself is a little bit bigger because it's a little bit bigger of beer. And they're just super delicious.
Yeah, I love it.
Like you said, they have that flavor of a saison.
Yeah, that kind of horse. It's like people call it horse blanket, which sounds awful unless you know what you're talking about. But it's got this sort of, I don't know what that is. It's like a weird tartness, but it has a little clove in there. That is reminiscent of a saison, but it's clearly not a saison. It's not as fruity.
Now the odor from this is actually reminding me a little bit of a Hefeweizen, some like a bubblegum or banana. Is that?
Yeah, should be there. Should be there for sure. And the glasses you're drinking out of are helpful and hurtful because they focus the nose so much that sometimes a beer like a Belgian Golden, I probably wouldn't be drinking that out of a glass that's sort of narrows at the nose. But we're not gonna. These are our flight glasses under normal times. But yes, you should be getting a little bit of bubble gum, and you should be getting. I mean that clovey banana, which is so common in saisons. There's elements of that in the yeast that we use. In fact, it could be the same yeast. Again, I'm not a brewer, so that's where I have to. That's where I have to not even pretend. You'd have to ask one of them what yeast it is.
We'll get them on the follow-up episode.
Yeah, those are the questions that I particularly like to ask because I'm like in that vein of I want to know what's in the beer.
I know he's Bubba or Dan. Oh, sorry, Bubba or Dan. I'm sorry, folks. Bubba or Dan would be the one to ask that.
If you're listening on the audio version of the podcast, he just kicked the camera. So I'm going to cut that all out anyway.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So a question about like the facility here because we don't want to just talk about the beer. Obviously, we want to talk about the beer, but we want to talk about the space too.
Yeah.
Where is the line for you between brewery and venue?
That's a really good question. I mean, the physical line you can tell, but the business model that Broken Goblet came up with, which is clearly the worst business model of all time now, if we had known COVID was coming, but
who knew?
The business model of Broken Goblet was that in order to differentiate ourselves from other places, we have to be event based. And yes, the beer is important, and I'm not diminishing having awesome beer. I'm not at all. But there are so many places.
This beer is fantastic.
Thank you. But there are so many places making awesome beer. There are so many of them. So what makes you want to come back here 3 times a week? If you've had the beer and you enjoy it, but you may be like, well, I'm going to go someplace else. So we came up long ago with, well, I want to go back to Broken Goblet because they're doing this thing, or they've got this thing, or there's this thing. They're letting us shoot them with paintballs in the back. Like that's a thing that we do every year. Or they're
awesome.
doing a concert, or they're doing a this, or they're recreating the match game on stage. Like so we came up with, it's been our idea to create an entertainment venue or complex. But when we first opened in Bristol, we couldn't afford it. We just couldn't afford it. And we knew we weren't going to invest lots of money in something if we weren't good at it. So here where we sit, the line is blurred because people know us more for the events and the experience than they do for the beer. And part of that's because we don't promote the beer. We don't brag as much. We just do it. But also part of it is that if you asked the common person who knew a Broken Goblet, the first thing they would say is that they like the space. They would not first go, and I don't take that as a bad thing. They would not first go, I love the beer, because the first thing that they do when they walk in, they're like, you see them, they're like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting this. It's what you remember.
That was pretty much my exact reaction when I came here a couple weeks ago. It was like, and coming as a front of house audio tech, I'm walking. There's a legit stage. You have a fly
It's
rig.
David Bowie's stage. It's the Electric Factory stage. Like it's the guys from Electric Factory did our lights and sound.
Really?
Like,
That's awesome.
You have a flown line array.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that in most venues, much less breweries.
Correct. But that's Jay, and he said if we're going to do this, we want to be able to bring in national acts. So we put in a green room, we put in a shower.
Awesome.
We because Jay and I were both touring. I mean, I toured, Jay toured. So it's like what do you remember about going to places?
Half the venues I work at don't have that.
You're in a broom closet. Like here's your green room, guys. The National got that broom closet. You guys get this broom closet.
I love the National. They are one of my favorite bands in the whole world.
Yeah. So you've got you go to these places and you're like, why are they getting? It's a shitty spot. So when Nationals would come through here and they'd be like, oh, this is pretty nice. Actually, we've got a green room. It's got a stocked fridge. It's got a TV. It's got music, and so we wanted to make an atmosphere that we as musicians would enjoy. So but the stage was a big deal for Jay. He's like, I'm not doing this unless it sounds awesome.
Yeah, and we'll get pictures of the stage and everything too. We'll get that on Instagram also. Once again, at Flight and a Pint on Instagram. You can check out all that.
The stage is amazing. I looking at it just makes me want to get on a stage so bad, and you miss it so much.
We're all gonna have a chat later about getting us.
Can you tell us really quick about the artwork that's on the wall?
It's all local artists, friends donated the art. It's for sale. We don't take commission fees, so if you're a local artist and you can find an open spot, we'll hang it and we'll sell it. And if it sells, you get the money 100%. We just ask that you replace it. So it's all local artists from Philly, from Jersey.
Awesome.
There's a couple a little bit further away, but for the most part, it's all within 50 miles from here.
We know a few with some backstock that can fill up your wall here.
Yeah, we've always wanted to do an art show, but we just haven't. We were going to do it this summer, and
I love how you have it staggered in between the sound. buffers.
yeah. Well, it's got to look okay, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's get into this last beer on this flight here.
Yeah. So I went with a big one and one that's very near and dear to my heart. This beer is called Carl the Great. It's named after my dad, who passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease right before the brewery opened, so he never got to see it open. But this is a barrel aged. So this beer, particular one is aged in wild turkey barrels for about 5 months.
Oh, you went all in.
Yeah, and then it's a basically an 11% Russian Imperial. Every note in that beer is exactly what I want in a Russian. And I love it. I mean, yours warming up now, so you're probably getting at least a lot more flavor to it. But it's a great beer. It was a great homage to my pop, and he liked dark beers. He liked sipping whiskey. He wasn't a wild turkey guy, but so he wasn't a bourbon whiskey guy. But so we do it every year in a different barrel.
Nathan's a big bourbon guy.
I'm a huge bourbon guy.
So this is, wild turkey's not super well known, but they make some really nice stuff on the higher end. The barrels are great. They weren't expensive, so we just aged it and then blended it, and here you go.
Cheers to the namesake.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Thank you.
Oh man, that's good.
And I assume I assume that you guys do a significant amount of charity work to raise money for ALS research.
We do. The ALS was our biggest one. We've probably raised more money with the Kelsey beer just because of the volume. But over the years, we've probably done about $10,000 for ALS.
Wow,
maybe
that's
more.
great.
I have to look. One year we did about $5,000 in 1 year. We were really heavy on it. But we get pulled in a lot of charity directions. So we try to spread it out as much, but ALS Foundation would be the one that and Wounded Warrior, because he was a vet. So Wounded Warrior, ALS Foundation are the ones that are the closest to our hearts. as a brewery.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I love that beer. So I figured that'd be a nice end to the flight.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah. But
Delicious, rich, the warmth of the barrel itself. You're getting all of it, and the very sweet notes from the wild turkey.
Yep. You get that, and there's like a nice, like almost caramel flavor in there. From that, that particular barrel, it kind of had a little bit of a peppery. I mean, and that's why stouts do so well in barrels because they just are perfect together. That's why I like a great, peppery cheese is so nice with the stout. It's just the flavors all just match. So everybody's doing it.
And this is great because it's a pretty high alcohol content beer, but you really don't taste that alcohol burn. It's nice and mild.
Yeah, no,
Thanks.
the grain bill is so good on this, and that is primarily what you are tasting in the beer.
Yeah. And this is an older beer. I mean, this beer that you're drinking now has probably been in kegs for 7 months, 6 months. But I mean, for a beer that big, it's that's the kind of beer we don't care. And also, it's not a beer you're just gonna fly. You're not gonna fly through.
No.
People aren't ordering 7 of them at a clip.
And then how long did you say it was aged in the
It's
barrels?
about 6 months in barrels.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So it's been a long time made, but yeah.
an even longer time mellowing and maturing.
Correct.
as we like to say.
Yeah, correct. But we've opened some of our stouts from 2015 and 2014 bottles that are just, they still have the whiskey. There's the first one was with Glenfiddich barrels. You still taste every bit of it. It's just awesome. So yeah.
I mean, like I said, we've been here before, and it was great, and it was great to come back. And, there's a lot of great reasons to come back to this place. Everything we touched on today, everything looks great. I look forward to coming back and hanging out on the patio, too.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to, and anybody's listening, we will treat you well. That's the best I can tell you. You'll have a good time here.
Yeah, I mean, both times we've been here so far, you guys have been fantastic to us.
Hey, it's good to hear.
Even before we start talking about doing this show.
Well, no, I mean, they didn't know. Reese, who took care of you before, is just a great ambassador, as I've always said.
Shout out to Reese.
Yeah, so he's, and you would never know when you talk to him that he's like this very aggressive front man for a deathcore band. You just would never know that.
Well,
so.
It was great. The first time we came here, I saw the standee, and then I saw him standing next to it. I'm like, oh, man, it's twins.
Yeah.
It's classic.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's he had his now wife, but I guess then fiance had made it for him, and we're like, dude, we got to have that. I mean, that thing's fantastic. So it makes its way around the brewery.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One last question: do you have a separate Instagram page, Fizz, for your just for your BMX bikes?
No, we should. That's actually a good idea. Gilbert has one, but
Where can
Where can we find Gilbert?
I think it's Gilbert Goblet on Instagram, like Gilbert Goblet. We should have one for the bikes because people talk about it all the time, but it's such a full-time job running social media that I just, we're 6 years in and we have literally been like to Twitter. We've done nothing with Twitter. So Jay was finally like, Mike, are you going to do anything with Twitter? I'm like, dude, I can't spread my brain to another toxic social media site. I can't do it. He's like, all right, I'm going to take Twitter. So now we're going to start to grow into Twitter. But right now, Instagram and Facebook.
I feel like Instagram is much nicer than
And you
Twitter.
got a pretty
It
good
is.
presence on there already.
Yes.
Also, I found it at Gilbert Goblet, and that's a follow right there.
Perfect.
There we go.
Oh, he's a photogenic son of a bitch, that cat.
Yeah.
We'll tag Gilbert in a couple.
Yeah, he
pictures.
gets way more. Like Gilbert Goblet puts a post up, it gets like 400 likes. I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
We do one. It's like, oh, we got 150. Cool.
Yeah,
Gilbert, the cat does one, and he doesn't even have thumbs, and he gets 400 likes.
That's your fault for not being a cat.
I know. That's the truth.
That's where you fucked up.
It's the truth.
Mike, thank you so much for saying that.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent spread of beers too.
Thanks.
This is not only was the beer great, but it's a great wide selection and a good representation
Thanks.
of everything you guys.
Yeah,
do.
I gave you a wonky flight, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We're gonna hang out a little bit and get a couple things that were
Gotta
off
try
this
some
flight
more.
too. So
Oh, yeah.
there's 25 beers on tap, so we're gonna
Awesome.
dive into this a little
Awesome.
bit more. So where can we follow Broken Goblet?
Facebook's the best. Broken Goblet on Facebook. Instagram, we are Broken Goblet Brewing, and I believe Twitter, we're Broken Goblet PA. But those are the three best. We have a website, and it updates. But in COVID, it's just been way easier to manage events and stuff through Facebook, and that's
Yeah.
the best way, the most easiest way to engage with us.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, let's finish these beers and get out of here.
Cheers.
Do it. My name's Jason Portizo.
I'm Nathan Dickinson.
And I'm Walter Wilson.
This has been Flight in a Pint.
Okay, bye.
has been a JTP Audio podcast. Thanks for listening.